All right, I call this class From Blanket Noodles to Rolling Restorative. Okay, so you're going to have your blocks at the back, one at the mid setting, the second setting, and one at the lowest, right next to each other. Okay, put your bolster on top of the blocks, the short end. Okay, and then a folded blanket on top of the short end of the bolster. All the way down, you're going to be sitting in front of it. And I want you to have a tennis ball or a tune-up ball with you, okay? If you don't have a ball, you'll survive the class, but it is nice to have one. If you have one of these balls, it's going to be good, but this smaller ball is going to be better for our calves and our feet. This doesn't do too much for our feet and our calves. And then you're going to take a blanket, and I want you to roll it up like a noodle. Okay, so generally when we have our blankets in our quarter folds, right, we're kind of folding from here and around. I want you to just unfold it. It'll be a little messy, okay? But I do want you to roll it up so you've got enough length on your blanket that you'll be able to swaddle your feet and your lower leg bones, okay? So I'm just gonna roll it up. It doesn't have to be the most perfect noodle. If you have a pool noodle, they work really good for this, but that seems kind of silly to get your pool noodles. I did tell Laura about it because she used a pool noodle when we did this once before, and she wanted to let me know that that worked good. So Laura, if you come in, get your pool noodle. Okay, so what you're going to do is sit forward of the bolster, right against it though, and you're going to position the feet together, the soles of the feet. So feet together, like I think of this as foot prayer, feet together. And once I get the pool noodle, the blanket noodle, I'm going to wrap it. Okay, so it's going to go around my tops of my feet together. And I'm going to pull, and you do want it pretty snug. And so the feet kind of slide up. Now my feet are no longer perfect, right? They're a little bit tipped out. So you want the femurs to be kind of this fulcrum to help you stretch open your hips here. So you're gonna pull that blanket. If you made a really long noodle, it'll be even better. And then you're gonna pull so you sit on it. Okay, so it's kind of cradling. So you create this kind of basket, pelvic basket. So we already have curves. And then when we lower back, okay, the knees are probably higher than you were expecting, maybe. Take a sandbag, have a belt with you as well, and add the sand from heart to belly, and maybe more sand higher than you expect. So you don't need to have all the weight at the belly. Okay, you might kind of tip it and get a little bit more into the center. And play a bit with this direction because this blanket noodle can be a little funky. But one of the reasons we are using it is that when we use our blocks and we stuff them in under the knees, it tends to push the femur down into the hip. And that's kind of, in some ways, not the direction of opening hips, right? So, you know, just kind of remembering why we learn things a certain way. And then you read a textbook and go, oh, looking at the alignment of the bones. Not that it's bad, but we're working on opening things, not creating more stagnation or stiffness, right? So have that sand where it feels supportive, right? Mine's kind of falling down. And then grab your belt. We'll do a little bit of arm awareness, and then we'll just sink into our cobbler's pose. Okay. So as I hold onto the belt, wider than shoulder width, I'm going to be generous and just slide my hands out. So I can still feel that I catch sensation in my arms. And then as your arms extend back overhead, you're allowing your armpit and the torso to combine, right? The energy of the mid-body. Now, if you start to feel like you're sliding out of this blanket support, remember, you can always just stuff it in under your seat like you're sitting on it, on the border of the hip. But feeling as you're pulling, you might bring your hands in closer on the belt, you might slide them out. Okay, feeling as you create the breath pace, You're going to just let go of the belt and let your arms relax down by the sides. They could be close, they could be wide, with a little bit of reaching in the shoulders. Any adjustments that you need, maybe the blanket's too far down, maybe you need it higher. And then as you center on that field of the rib cage, feeling as you in-breath the movement of the ribs. And as you exhale, feel the belly center. And that it's centered more than just at the navel, right? You can feel this because you have sand likely on the core, that when you center back into the exhale, that it becomes this kind of like trampolining movement with the breath, with the core span. Okay, 2 more rounds of breath. Just taking a flow of the in-breath, filter through the nose. Exhale completely. And slide the sand off and begin the process of getting a hold of your blanket noodle to the side of your hips. And just as you hold on to it, you're going to scoot the feet apart so the soles of the feet are on the floor. And you'll have your feet about hips distance, so you feel kind of that width and the resistance as you're pulling on the blanket, okay? Now, the back muscles are your anti-gravity muscles, right? So it's good that we can create that strength into the back sheath of the body, right? The muscles in the back. So just in this position, right, we have that arch. We have a little bit of openness, not just through spine, right? The front of the spine, right, which is more of that roundness, the discs, right? And the facet joints are the pokey parts of the back, right? And those are kind of relaxing back to the bolster. I like to call it the pokey bits or the back of the spine. All right, so take the right foot, lift it, and cross it over to the left knee. And it might be a little bit of a challenge to get that to operate that way. But you're going to keep a hold of your blanket noodle and you're going to pull. And I would say get a hold of it and then you're going to pull a little higher up because now you have one less foot in it, right? So you kind of have a little more length, tiny bit. So pull, so the blanket, right, new way of using blankets today, are on the left ankle at the top of the foot, right? Try to get that foot to stretch down from that, okay? And the right knee points out. And we're not trying to bring our knees to the chest. We're not trying to rock the hips here. We're just keeping that secure stretch in that right hip. And it's new stuff, right? So pull, you want to keep pulling with the hands on the blanket. Pull, breathe, keep the right knee pointing outwards. That pointy bit is out. And then shift so the right foot scoops into the blanket, gets swaddled. The left foot lifts and crosses to the right knee. I mean, one hip and knee might move easier than the other in this. This is always, for me, some of these exercises are good to kind of notice. This side works a little better than this side in these exercises. So pull and try to get your hands so they're even on each side of the upper thigh hip area. They may be right next to the hips. And the left knee points out. And if you're kind of bored with it, I would say use the practice to kind of steady the only self you got to kind of feel like, okay, this knee points out, this hip feels a little bit of circulation. We're going to massage the glutes next. I want you just to get kind of the state of the hip. We'll call this the state of the hip on today's event, state of the hip. So the knee points out, the left foot is passive. You could circle it, you could flex it, it's your foot, okay? And then feeling if your left hip drops out. I mean, this hip for me is a little bit more motion. Okay, so I can just feel in this position alone how my left side of the pelvis is just leaning. Okay, now get your soft ball. Okay, this is kind of fun. We could use a hard one for this too, huh? And I want you to lean your knees to the right, and you're going to roll it under that left rear. So here's what I think is a little bit challenging is when I lean to the right, it's kind of awkward, but I don't want to cramp up my left glute or grip it or push into my left foot. So I'm kind of rolling it under, as awkward as it is. Make sure it's high enough so it's not under your sitting bone area. And then as you come back center, I'm just going to rock across that left glute. Now, the blanket doesn't need to be a part of this right now. You might just kind of push it down. We'll use it in a bit to swaddle our hip, but I want you just to rock. Now, the left foot could come to the floor. And again, this whole blanket situation, you can move it off of your bolster if you want less support. But I'd say use a little bit of guidance with what's under you to push into. And then it's also the ball you're kind of striking across the left glute zone. Okay. Feel that you can push deep into the ball. Now, it's true, since some of us have the tennis ball with us, we could use this, right? But you'll notice how much more comfortable it is with the softball. But today is a day you could do a little contrast compare if you have the tune-up or the tennis ball with you, okay? Now, I'm going to move the ball to the right glute and then go across, put the right foot to the left knee, and as I draw across, I'm trying to swing my hips, so I'm really wagging my tail. And when you're on your back, it feels, with the ball on your rear, right? It feels kind of interesting to just swing the hips so it's a swivel. And we started with the pelvic kind of basket. Now you're kind of rocking that basket side to side and tipping over, right, with your knee out. And then if both feet are down, you don't want to worry about tipping anything over, right? You're really trying to jostle the glute muscles on that right rear now. Okay. All right. Now, as we come back into center, okay, place the ball at the sacrum. So roll it to the very center of the back of the pelvis, as far as you could tell. And hands on the floor besides the hips, stretch the right leg straight up. Take a moment here, try to center on that ball, give a little bit of traction for the core. Breathe. It only helps. Okay, now elbows down by the sides, hands press, and then when you switch sides, you might do a little bit of a core test and push into your forearms or your two arms and switch sides. Grab both feet up for a moment and then left leg up. Remember, it's not a competition. If it doesn't work for you to have both feet up, that's okay. But it's a kind of a nice core work, is to have that ball at the back of the pelvis and bring your feet off the floor, hinging at the hips, right? So bending the knees. And then we're just alternating that left leg up. I'm trying to keep it so it's all level. So if both knees up for you doesn't work, which is fine, then have one leg up, right? You're switching. So take a few more moments. So those that want to give it a try, both feet up, feel that traction at the sacrum. If it's ultra tight for your back to do this, then I'd say keep it with one leg up, okay? Because your abdominals should take the work. Okay, I just want the core to be kind of feeling a little tone before we take a twist. And then lower down that left leg. That was up a little longer than the right. And then we're going to just move our hips side to side and sacrum shearing our sacrums. Okay, hips go side to side using the soft ball. Okay, again, if you have the tennis ball, I don't recommend putting that on the sacrum at all. So that would be kind of not okay. You could use it on the glutes, but not on the sacrum. Okay, so as I go side to side, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to start to transition to a rolling and tipping my knees to the left. And then I'm going to come off of not only the bolster, but the ball. And we're going to come into a sleeping sage pose. And I want you to take your blanket noodle. Okay, this is kind of fun. We're going to wrap it around, and it's really more of a swaddle idea. And you don't need the ball under the knee. Maybe you like it under the right knee, maybe you don't. You don't have to use it. But since we don't have sandbag ease on our back, none of us can really get our sandbag on our back like we like it in classes. So I do want you just to feel this at the front of the hip. And then when you turn and pivot, kind of wrap it around the back. Now you don't have to tie up the blanket, but you're going to lean so there's pressure on the abdominals with the blanket. That's the key. So sometimes we'll teach this and we'll have, if it's in more of like a therapeutic setting for digestion, we might put the blanket in a big fold and put it here when you're leaning in this pose, like kind of a wad. So as I turn, I have my hands on the floor, my head turns to the right, and I pull the blanket in under my head. And if you don't want all this block stack underneath, you can lower down to one block, okay? So kind of feel this. If you get rid of one, it's probably not going to feel different. And if you decide I want it higher, you can turn your block up higher, right? And just feel, I don't like my chin to jam up, so I like the block pretty low, as low as I can get it. And you can also go minus any block under your bolster. It's just a deeper twist. So feel the blanket just at that left side of the abdomen. So it's not really wrapped all the way around the back of your pelvis, unless you're really talented. But as you're turning, you're relaxing into the core band. Okay, now should I put my blanket in a wad? I'm recommending you just have it so it's on this left side of the abdomen and then around. Okay, it's kind of that noodle around. You're relaxing your rib cage, taking that twist. Okay. It's more of the blanket snake now, isn't it? Let your arms be heavy. Now, a heavy arm release could be arms wide, it could be arms close. I mean, it could even be your arms sweep back. Some people like this. They like to stretch their arms back in this pose. Okay, but feeling how this influences the circulation in the core body. I think that's the huge part. And it could feel a little bit awkward with this blanket kind of stuck at your belly. So breathing into that spleen, right? You can feel that pressure into the abdominals. And now slide your hands back, press, and as you come up, we're going to come into a side sage. And today, let's get a little creative. Let's turn our bolster across. And perhaps if you have a round bolster, get that. Right? You kind of know that might be helpful. Perhaps you use a block and a blanket on top. I don't want you to get rid of your noodle. Okay, because it's already rolled up, and then if you unroll it and fold your blanket, it could be a bit of a challenge. But you can either use one blanket and wad it up, right? You could fold it, and that might be high enough for you under your head. You can have the blanket on top of a block. You kind of don't know till you try. And then your other block on the other side. Now, you don't have to have this this blanket noodle around your hip. You can play with it. I mean, this is definitely a class to explore stuff. I'm just going to put it off to the side, okay? Because I like to use it for one thing for the twist, change things up. Get your sandbag, okay? All right, we're going to do a couple things. Okay, so we're getting ready for side sage. We're going to take our hard ball, okay? And we're going to put it at the very base of the left IT band. So it's not on the knee. We don't put the ball on the knee. It's going to be just above the side of the knee. So if you have two tune-up balls, two tennis balls, it's kind of nice to put them together. So if you have them in like one of those totes, you can just put them next to each other in the tote, right? They're going to be in there. Or I'm just going to show with one ball because most of us have a ball, okay? If you got a golf ball, it's okay for this one, okay? Don't push it into the knee, into this ligament. Put it right above the side in the base of the IT band. And you're going to lean in The ball is going to be, remember, it's not on the knee, but it's just above in that pocket. Okay. And then other ball under the right knee. Okay, we're getting kind of wild and crazy here. Sand on the side of the right hip. Okay. Now, what if the ball feels like it's kind of rolling to the back of the knee? Just move it up a little bit. I don't want to have any dangers of the ball behind a knee. And then as we lower down with the left arm between the bolster and the blanket, this is a big deal. The arm is not on a blanket, right? It's in the gap to stretch out the arm. And the right arm reaches overhead to the block. There it is. Okay. And if the block at the highest setting feels too low, like your shoulder feels like it's getting a lot of pressure and squeezing, then I'd recommend you can put your hand on a chair, which means you have to get up and get something, or let your right arm move a little bit. Try to get some circulation in the shoulder, even if the arm is not straight and it's bending, you're relaxing your hand. It's perfectly fine to put that right hand on the bolster as well. But feeling the side body starting to stretch open. I like the hand overhead so I feel a little more fullness in the reach of my side, but it's not required. You just line into the bolster, and if it's a round bolster, it's extra good, right? Because it's going to create that elasticity that they both will, right? Between the ribs, that extra little pulse. But how you can cultivate that pulse is just breathing. With that felt sense of inhale, that's all you're required to do is just breathe. Right? Free oxygen refills. Just let the weight of your head relax into the blanket. Okay, now if you have tension in the neck building, I'd say turn your head a little bit down to the left into the blanket. And if it's the block you have and that's just too much, it's too much pressure, you can always go down to just using the blanket. And it's okay to use the other blanket. I just think it's nice to have it kind of rolled up for when we need it again. So allow the abdominals, the digestive area, all that area to feel a little bit more length, no blanket pushing on it, just the bolster. So take a few more moments here. And then when we turn to our left hip, we're going to move the right arm down. I'd say just push the sand off your right hip. You might have stopped noticing the ball at the IT band. It probably was like a little bit of awareness, and then it just sort of becomes a nice little kind of deep pressure point into that trigger point for sure. So coming off of the side sage period, getting out of the pose, you're going to come up and turn. Now, if you need a blanket under your knee, go ahead and place a blanket across the mat underneath both knees. Otherwise, we're going to take our blanket. I think I'm going to use the blanket. Why not? I don't know why I wouldn't use a blanket here. Just use it. Now, you want to be close to a wall if you're using the wall. If you're not using a wall today, so be it. But you want to be close enough that your feet are going to touch, because we're going to be getting into rolling the feet, not up the wall. Okay, take a couple blocks on the other side of the bolster. Okay, first things first, we're going to stretch front. So I'm going to reach the hips back. So it's almost as if you were anticipating either something between a cat-cow and a down dog. Okay, what that pose is, I'd like to have some ideas of the name, but for now we'll feel our hips reaching back, our hands on the blocks, and see if you can get your arms to settle down to the bolster and forehead on the bolster. Okay, so hands on blocks, blocks low, arms are getting a deep stretch. What if this is too much for you? Bring your blocks in closer to the bolster, like right next to it. That might be easier for the shoulders. Okay. Now our focus is not to pull the shoulders and feel the most extreme stretch. And the sad part is that they're certainly a little tight because of our daily posture. So they're kind of shrink wrap. So we're just trying to get them out of that shrink wrap here. That's all. Okay. Now we're gonna palm down, not calm down, palm down. Move the hips forward into up dog. So your hips are gonna reach down to your bolster. Okay, now I think what's kind of fun on this one is to alternate a little bit. So I push into my hands, I move my hips back, and I'm trying to use the process of the sequence to help my hips and my spine and my shoulders, all of them. Okay, so do a little self-study. You're in a motion, one breath per movement, so you don't need to hold the pose long, but move the hips down. And then as you move back, you're pressing, you're kind of gaining into that table pose. And then as you move your hips back, extend the armpit chest. And maybe you touch down on the bolster. Okay. Now, last one, reach forwards. Okay. Feel the arms kind of as a team. Like it's like, I know you don't have a uni arm, but they're definitely a team event here for the shoulders. Okay, now when you come back, we're going to make our way back into our legs again. Okay, so one of my ideas on this one today was a little tricep work, but let's do it. Let's take our block on our bolster and push the bolster forward. Okay, take your hands to hold the block like so. The elbows go down on the bolster, and then at your intensity for you. So for me, I'm going to go forward with the block first. I'm going to lower my forehead down on the bolster and then see if I can just lift the block towards the ceiling. So I keep my elbows down, both of them pressing down. Hands holding the block, draw the block towards your back. Remember, there's no competition here. So I would say be more curious about the movement of the tricep, okay? So the upper arm, back of the arm, you can feel that kind of pulling, stretching out of the shoulder, and then lower the block down. Okay, done with the block. Push the bolster forward, bring your hands onto the floor, toes under, lift the knees, and walk on back. I'd say go right back to Uttanasana. I hope you have a blanket nearby because this will be kind of cool. So if you have a blanket and a quarter fold, you're going to step your feet up on top. So the heels are down, but the ball of the foot goes up on the blanket. So I just put my foot up kind of on that. So I'm just slanting it to stretch out my calf, right? So I don't have my whole foot on the blanket. Okay. Now you might need some help here to stabilize. So you might need your bolster, right? You might get a hold of it and then take it on up. So you have a little bit more assistance. But give a few breaths here. Let your head relax. Feel the reach of the side bodies into the spine. I think of it as kind of spine, side bodies. Now we're getting into weird territories. Okay. All right, now feel where the energy is in your feet. It might be like a little lopsided because the feet are a little bit lifted. So when you drop the bolster, you don't have to be fancy about it. Walk off the blanket, and then carefully you're going to bend through the knees and then carefully roll up. Hands above the knees, come on up. Okay, so we're gonna get our ball, and I've been kind of liking doing the rolling sometimes on a blanket. Some people find that this is just a little more soothing on their foot. So if you haven't tried rolling with a blanket under the ball, you might give it a try. So I've got the ball at the ball of my foot, okay, and I'm just rolling down the curve of my foot. Now, oh yes, it is definitely more challenging if you're on the hard floor. So if you want to use the floor instead of the blanket, you don't mind the intensity, just take the blanket aside, kick it aside, and push through the ball. Not as if the ball is going to make it to the other side of your foot and pop out the other side, but I want you to feel where the bones circulate here. If you tend to go just on the spine of the foot, no big deal, at least you're doing it, right? But also lower the heel down. I like to have a wall nearby, and then just go across the arch. So I call this the arch cross. So I got my heel on the ground, okay? And I have the ball just under the ball of my foot, and I'm going across the arch. So I'm just moving my foot across. Okay. All right, now push on the ball, and you're going to turn the foot in and out. So pivoting. Try to get the ball closer to the ball of the foot when you do the pivoting. If it's difficult and just kind of get sucked into the gap, that's okay. It's still good work. Sometimes we can't help it, but the foot is maybe sore, or it's just kind of achy doing this. It's a new thing to wake up the foot, the plantar fascia. Okay, shake it out. Use a wall so you feel stable. Okay, and then go to side two. So you're either with a blanket under your ball or not. I just want you to know that some people who are super sensitive might find that better. If you've got some foot stuff going on, sometimes a blanket under just makes it so much more soothing for all these rolling exercises. So we're going up and down the bottom of the foot. We're keeping it real simple. So I bet you side two feels a little different. It could be a mystery difference. You're not sure, but it does feel like another foot. That's not the same as the other one. It feels a little, maybe it has some snap, crackle, pop going on. You know, you might notice one side, you can kind of plow into it and a little part of the foot easier than the other side. Okay, it's probably worth doing this rolling for your feet. Okay, the golf balls work really good for this one. Okay, but I like one that's a little bigger because it gets more of my foot, right? It kind of spans out. Okay, and then we're going to put the heel down and go just across the arch. So rocking. Okay, so feeling as the pressure goes through the foot, you want to make sure your knees are in a little bend so they're not locked. Okay, and second side could feel different. You might have to just accept that, not making it a little bit more intense or lighter, just feel what it's like. It is what it is. And then push down and then see if you can pivot on the ball. Okay, so I prefer the ball towards just kind of in the center of my foot for a lot of these things, except the going up and down the spine of the foot. If I push it to my heel, I'm not a big fan of that. It feels kind of intense in my hip, like if something's not quite supportive. So do notice what's intuitive for you with the ball under your foot. You'll probably figure it out pretty quickly since you've stepped on these feet for a while. What's going to help open it up? Okay. All right, now push the ball aside. Okay, roll it out. And then bring your seat back to the wall. If you're not at the wall, you're in the center of the room, that's okay. And then bend through your knees. And then as you lower down, okay, feel your hips reach back. Feel the hips as they motion back and up, your spine downwards. Okay, now your hands could touch the wall. I'm a big fan of this one. I feel it's an interesting circulation event in my legs, in my spine, in my arms. Okay, and then we're going to walk our hands on forward. So I think of this as just crawling to the floor. Bring your feet on back. And then as you lower down, let's start to come into that sage pose. So what we're going to do is take our block under the bolster, okay? We're going to place a blanket on the short end, like so. And then when you lean into your right hip, okay, sandbag on the side yard, okay, you're going to place the noodle, right? Remember, so it's to that right hip and around. And then you're just going to twist into it. So we'll take a little break from the feet for a few moments. So lean in. Now you might find some connection here into the right side of the abdominals, into the side corner of the liver. You might feel it's a little different. It's a little bit different density. You might not. It's okay either way. But as you're leaning in, let your chest lower. You might already be there. And let your head turn to the left. Okay, now there's a chance the blanket's going to kind of drop down and be off the bolster, right? It's kind of easy. If I have my noodle around my hip and it's like here, and then it doesn't quite touch here, I want to bring it up a little bit, right? So it doesn't need to swallow all the way around the back. It would be fun to figure something like that out, I think. But maybe we have to get the scarves out. As the season, as we shift into winter season, maybe we'll use scarves in the class. Okay, so lean in, abdominal pressure on that right side. And as your head turns, breathing. Okay, let the back open. Okay, even if there's something pushing the front, it's even more of an opportunity for the back to release. Bring our hands slide in, push, and begin to come into that side sage with some specific direction here. So we've got our bolster. We're going to turn it across. Some of you might be using a round bolster. I'm going to try this side with my blanket as high as I had it, as high as I had the props last side, but without the block, and see if this feels more soothing for my neck. Okay, so it's about the height of the bolster. If you have the block under your bolster, just make sure it's not like all of a sudden this high up, because the block could go any level, right? Just make your decision. I mean, the blanket is going to be softer than the block, period. Okay, so now we put our noodle aside and we put our ball. Now we're going to use two balls on this one. So we got the ball above the side of the right knee at the IT band. Now this is going to be kind of this really held up spot here where all the wiring and the nerves, and this area just gets kind of massively tight. So we're just going to put the ball there and lean into it. So my weight just drops into it as the other leg has a ball under the knee. Okay. So as I lean down, okay, now if you've got a golf ball, just be sure the ball does not just suddenly roll behind your knee. Okay. So it's on the side, then I've got the other ball under my left inner knee, right? So I'm just letting the left foot kind of release back. And then I take my sand to my left hip, okay, or down the side. You get to choose. Do you want it down the side? Do you want your hip? And as you lean in, put the weight of your head, and this feels a little better with the blanket. And as the left arm stretches overhead, okay, now my right arm for me right now is bending a little bit. I'm kind of feeling that I'm conforming around the props. So you don't have to have your right arm perfectly straight. You can feel your way into what works for you to feel like you can relax in the shape. So that might be bending my arm. That might be straightening the right arm. And then the left arm reaches overhead. Yeah, and take the time, right? Feeling as you center back, breathing. You can really feel the weight of the body on the bolster. Luckily, you have sand option on the left side to add more of that weight. And even though it's a sand bag, it's helping stretch the skin. It helps create traction in the muscles and weight bearing for the bones. And so kind of feel where the stability comes in the joints here. I'm not trying to kind of pour out and do, ultra stretch. I'm working on leaning into my props, breathing slowly, and just centering the torso. And there's a lot of precious stuff in there, in the torso, in the ribs, right? We're letting the costal stretch here. Precious cargo in there. Okay, so feeling your experience of breathing and settling. Okay, now with that reach of the side body, open out the left arm, maybe a little bit back, maybe you keep it right on the bolster, and then just push the sand aside. It'll fall on its own. And then as you create that movement in the rib space, you're gonna roll and feeling before you get your hands involved to get yourself to come up to sitting, try to get those ribs to kind of roll out, okay? So let's work a little bit with kind of movement in the rib spaces. We're gonna roll to the right. Okay, push your bolster to the back area. Let's see. Okay, so your bolster's not on the mat. We're gonna place our soft ball to the upper back for a moment. So bring the knees down, and then you're just gonna go across your back. Now I have the ball basically behind my heart area. I think I prefer it to go a little bit higher and hold my head, okay? So I lean back and I press across the ribs, the back rib space, the spine, especially with the soft ball, this can be nice. Let your knees bend, pointing up, pointing a little bit out is fine, but move the upper body kind of like a typewriter movement. So shifting side to side. Okay, and the ball will make a little noise, not like a typewriter when it gets to the end, but it'll make noise, the softer balls. Okay, now as you come back to center, walk the feet in, roll to the side, use your elbow to come up, and then let's get a bolster behind us. This is where I was getting at a moment ago. Bolster behind your pelvis, and then take a block and put it down in front of your legs so the block is at the lowest setting. And then you're going to turn it actually horizontal and then place a ball on top. That doesn't mean it's going to stay on there. Okay. Then put your calf on top of the ball. All right, we're going to do 3 different patterns of movement on this back of the leg and the side of the lower leg, below the knee. So everything's quite a bit below the knee that we're rolling. So I kind of like to lean back into my bolster with my elbows on it and then step into my left foot. And then the right leg is the focus point here, is I'm going across the right calf with the ball in the middle of my lower leg. So somewhere below the knee and above the Achilles in the middle there, which is, it's kind of far from the Achilles, I guess. But as you're going across, you can feel kind of that ropey tissue, right? The really thick fascia here on the calf. And if it doesn't feel deep enough, don't worry, we'll get there. Just start with kind of grazing across Remember, all your weight is on that ball. You're not trying to hover over the ball or stretch the leg in the air. You're just resting on the ball and rolling. Okay. Yeah, it feels kind of ropey, kind of tight. Okay. All right, now we're going to go up and down the calf. So up and down the whole length of it besides the knee. We're not going to the knee. We're not going to the back of the knee. You're going to come forward and turn your block lengthwise. Okay. Ball is still on the calf. Okay, I might slide the block down a little bit here. And then I'm going to move my bolster a little bit off to the side. And all these props, huh? Hands on the floor. And then I'm going to go up and down the calf. Okay, this will feel extra good when we do our inversions, right? When we have the calves kind of flushed out, the feet and the calves. So going up and down that right calf. You might feel when you're sliding that your rear is sliding on the floor, or some of us like to lift it up. I'd say just let it slide. Okay. You just want to push. Now, if you want a little bit more intensity, you can wiggle across the ball. You can move your weight a little bit down and get the area so it's not just at the back and you're trying to get to the soleus of it all, like the heart of the leg is the soleus. So I'm pushing in, and then I have the gastroc, right, the two heads of that kind of pushing around it. So I want you to feel maybe a little bit more towards the side of it, right? So not necessarily right in the center, but towards the side, and then lean forward and turn the left knee out. I'm on the right leg for the calf roll, but you could be on the left leg or the right. Turn the block across so it's no longer lengthwise. You're going to pivot it, and then pivot the leg on the ball so the ball is on the side, the peroneal, so the side of the lower leg. Okay? Now, if your hip doesn't work for this one, like your knees like, and your back is rounding, just sit on a blanket or your bolster for this, okay? So now the block is supporting the ball again. The ball is on the block. And I tend to put the ball a little bit low on the fibula, so downwards, and then I'm rolling up and down in the peroneals, in these muscles. So hold on to that lower leg bone. Doesn't have to be some specific pretty hold. You're just keeping a hold of the leg so it doesn't go anywhere. And you're doing saw-like motion to massage into the side of the calf. Yeah, these have some really good acupressure points, right up the side, like high up, right above the fibula is a great point to get into, but it can be a little bit achy, like So going up and down the middle might be what's the most comfortable for you to cruise through. But maybe even close your eyes and just kind of feel. Just make sure the ball doesn't hit your knee at all. I think it's far enough from my knee to hurt anything. But yeah, this side span can feel kind of eerie, It's like just a very interesting nerve-rich tissue here. So a lot of fluid retention in this part of our body. So it's natural. You're going to feel those kind of achy sensations. Okay, so roll up and down, maybe move it a little faster for a few moments. Okay, and then we'll take the leg off of the ball and the block and then just pluck the calves a little bit. So I would say go to both so you can see the difference in rolling one side. It's subtle, but it's definitely different. You can go, oh, it just feels a little different. This feels kind of blocked. Okay, so this is a little bit more, you can squeeze it a little bit better. Okay, you want to be able to squeeze through all this stuff. Okay, and then squeeze it by pushing your thumb and rolling the calf. Okay, yeah, I'd say be very just curious about it, just turning it. Your calves will survive. Okay, and then go to side two. So ball on the block, elbows on the bolster, lean back, make sure the ball is not under your knee. This is really important. We don't get the ball behind our knee. And then we go across. Okay. I'm doing this calf roll because I'm excited about going into inversions after it. I'm like prepping for what's going to feel like, So the relief might not be right now. It might be to come. Sometimes we do things for that reason, especially in yoga, in restoratives. There's a good feeling post some of the exercises. And this one's a roll, so it's kind of jazzing up the calves. Calf jazz. Okay. All right, now when you're going across, be purposeful on where the nerve-rich tissue is to kind of press into. You can feel your foot move. One side you might be a little slower than the other. If you have like a history of a stress fracture in your foot or other things on one side, it'll probably be affected in the calf. It's going to be up the body chain, into the knee, into our posture. So just give each calf an equal opportunity to roll, as equal as you can. Okay, and then we're going to turn the block lengthwise. Yep, if the ball gets kind of stuck, I know it's kind of the tissues bulge out. That's what you want. You want to see that kind of bulge with the calf. You want to kind of push it across so it kind of almost flattens. Okay, all right. I want some happy calves. And I'm going to go up and down without going behind the knee at all. There's no reason you put a ball behind your knee and roll. I don't see any massage therapist that would do that either. So not a place to be pushing anything into. So as I go up and down the calf, I'm working with pressure plus movement equals massage. And the glide is kind of interesting, right? The depth of it changes with the fascia. When you go lower, it's also more fluid filled at the lower part, right? You can feel how it's just kind of boxy, just stagnant. Okay. All right, now lean in and turn the leg out. I'm going to give you kudos for being patient with this one. Okay, so then going across. Now, I sometimes, the opposite leg, I just step it out. Sometimes I bring the leg in, but this isn't about flexibility. This is about circulation. So don't feel like you have to be in some sort of pose with your other hip or knee or foot. You're just getting into that left calf. So I'm on the fibula, on the side bone. It's a much smaller bone than the tibia. It's way smaller. It's way thinner. So you're going to feel the muscle across it here, which to me, when I push into it, I just don't get to massage this area or stretch it it's just not an area you really stretch during the day, is it? And how would you stretch this area if you were to do a pose? I mean, I really have to think. I could only use a belt under my foot and cross the leg, and that's probably the only thing I could come up with. That would be safe, right? That's not a pretzel pose. So this is a really great place to focus on gallbladder meridian here on the bottom, right on the side, so right up to here. So I'm getting some good pressure points at the top. Okay. Yeah, if it kind of falls out, the ball rolls away, then just put it back there. It might start to move out. Okay. It kind of feels like a calf lobe. You ever think of that? Like, it's not an earlobe, but it's a calf lobe. It's kind of pushing away from the ball. You kind of squeeze that. Okay. Now try on this side before we come into our inversion, because we got to get to it. See if you can have the ball on the side. You can kind of squeeze the calf away, the skin away from the bone, pull it out from the bone. Okay, kind of tug it. Okay. I have kind of a vision if you play with a dog with like a toy and they're pulling it away, right? I'm trying to do that with my calf. Okay. All right, so pull it away. All right, now let's go ahead and take the ball out and the block to the side, and we'll get our bolster, okay, and we'll sit on it. That's what we do with bolsters, is we sit on them, and then we'll put our blanket. We need a softball, we'll need that. Put our blanket into a quarter fold. All right, let's get there. Okay, so tailbone center, drop back, bring the legs up. It's probably tempting to get a sandbag on your feet. But let's pause. We'll get there at the very end. Okay, but feel where the hips are in this slant. If you are craving a sandbag and you just go, I want to feel that on my feet and my calves stretch, do it. Okay, go for it. But otherwise, you're going to get your belt, okay, and you're going to bend through the knees and scoop up both feet in the belt and pull. Really be firm. I mean, the sand is good, and you're welcome to do that, as well as the belt, right? You could put a belt and then a sandbag and just try it out. But as you're pulling, I want you to feel where the tailbone's in that deep curve, and like you have a uni leg. And you might feel like, well, the left calf feels fresher than the right calf because I just rolled it. But at some point, they're going to flush out the same. It'll just take a little time. Just set aside a little time for this event here. Okay, now my feet are pushing into the strap. So I'm kind of pushing away with my feet and I'm pulling with my hands I'm pretty intensely kind of pulling down. I might slide my hands down just to feel the right amount of resistance in my legs. Okay, now push the feet out. Now, if your belt is not buckled up, you want to make it into a loop. So buckle up and then push the feet out into a leg float. I won't go too wild and crazy on this one. Have it so that you can feel some sensation in the feet. I hope you feel some awareness in your feet, but you just start to relax your feet in. Okay, so they've been pushing, even though you had a ball at your calf, they've been kind of reaching through the heel. So let the feet turn in a little bit. Don't be too radical about it. Just let it relax, you know. No radical feet here. Okay. The knees might feel this interesting kind of pulley right across the side of the knee. So if it's, again, too much, what do? You make the loop smaller. You just don't get too far out with it. Okay. Now, with that concentration going back to the abdominals, to the heart, you can let your arms open out and just give a few moments here. Leg float. You've had your legs in all these different things we've done. We've come up to standing, we've stretched the back, we've rolled the feet, we've come down, we've rolled the calves. So just let the legs be upside down again. Yeah, turn your rolled upside down again. How about that? Okay, as much as you can in this opportunity to calm the brain a little bit. And if you need something to focus on, kind of trace the sensations in the body. The spatial outline is a good start, like just what you notice you are, the legs, the pelvis, the bolster, the chest opener with the arms open, and the bolster lifting the hips. Okay, now bend your knees, reach up to the belt, pull, and come into brain float. This group is pretty talented, so I bet we can maneuver right into it. So, assuming you know this one, you'll take your belt in a loop behind your head, and then you'll add your sandbag to the left thigh. Okay, now, as you're reaching with your leg, find a place of placement of the belt where you kind of get to stretch your calves a little bit. So that doesn't mean that it's as intense as possible, right? You don't have to make it as tight as, as small of a loop as possible. So it's going to feel pressure, but you don't have to make this so it's really small and you have to get all this hamstring event going on. Give yourself some slack. You can move the strap higher up on the back of the skull. I would recommend bring it above the occiput and then let your head lean back into the belt. Okay, arms are open. Right, hamstrings are us. If you're lucky to have a wall near you, it's actually quite special because I can kind of root into my left hip flexor psoas. It's also okay without because you still might be able to get some nice release with your left psoas without the wall. That could also be just as well, huh? I could see benefit to either. Now, if your head keeps tilting in, which mine is, just let it go back. Don't let the belt go around your neck. Just at your head. Your shoulders back, head back. Okay, now scan the feeling of your right calf. Like notice if it's in a specific spot below the knee and down to the heel. Just kind of, feel kind of thermally what area in the calf, because that's a pretty good, it's a pretty thermal feeling right now. I feel the heat in my calf. So you're trying to span it and then let it drain out. So take the sandbag to the belly. And if you need to hold the back of your head so you don't lose your belt, you might hold it for a moment. Bring your left foot up into the belt and then switch sides. So right leg lowers down. Okay. Sand goes down the top of that right thigh, straight on down. Okay. And then as your head leans back, the left leg could be straight. That's not like a bad posing idea, but, and even for those of us that have knee challenges, it's not particularly bad when you're upside down versus if you're standing into your foot. But you might notice that you get a little sloppy with the alignment from your hip if you have it really pushed in. So I would recommend do a little nano bend of the left knee. So you're pushing into your foot. You're not twisting the knee, but you want to feel the establishment of the bone establishment, especially when you're upside down from your foot up, upside down, to your hip, so your thigh bone really kind of nestles into the hip socket. You're using the leg kind of as a weight, right, into your hip, like femur, feeling how it goes deep into the hip joint. At least we're going to go there into our hip work. So your hands could hold on to the belt. I mean, sometimes this feels kind of nice, but trust the process of leaning back. Remember, little narrow bend of the knee. And follow what advice you feel is helpful for you in particular. We all have different advisors for how we arrived where we are. Maybe some of it was good. Maybe some of it is to be let go. It's to let it go if it worked for you or not. Okay, take your hands to the back and we're going to slide the belt off and then slide the sand off the right thigh and then cross the left leg. Here's where I want you to let the bottom leg bend a lot. So you're going to just feel the right foot kind of slide up and the knee point to the right. So you got a little more ease into the side band of the left thigh. And just really keep this simple. You're not trying to get the foot to the floor. You're just feeling the perception now out of the calf, out of the gate, right into the hip gate. Yeah, these are really interesting areas that we're going to go into the end of practice. So kind of the gateway into hip circulation. And what's the right amount? Not too much. Stabilize, strengthen, lengthen, bend the left knee. And then as you come back center, bring your right foot up, always with care for your back. So if it doesn't feel right with a bolster, you can do any of these without it. The bolster, now cross the right leg to the left, bend the left leg. The bolster is going to add on a little bit more intensity. It's not only going to reverse the flow back to your organs, it just tips things upside down like an inner juicing, right? Jostling the insides. Some people feel more space here when they're upside down for a long period because of the circulation shift. And for some of us, some days it feels good on the back and some days it doesn't. So honor where you are right now. If you don't want the bolster into your back, you just do everything without it. Okay? You can follow any of these exercises without. Now I'm going to let my ribs stay open here. So one reason I like the bolster for this is that my ribs on the other side, the lower ribs have to kind of open up when the bolster is under my pelvis. Okay, now take a few more moments. You can kind of have a muscle memory of this one. This will come back to us in a minute. So we'll bend the right knee and we'll take the belt off our feet. So both feet are free of the belt. Take a ball, softball, between the knees. Knees go side to side. Okay, just take it easy, rocking through the back of the pelvis. Okay, you might have things in your way, so move them around. Okay, I get a little bit of reach of the hips. So when my knees go to the side, I move the knees towards the arm. Of course, that means if my arms are straight out, I could move them lower, I could move them higher. Okay, now knees center, hands on the bolster, knees to chest, and then just carefully push the bolster down. And then once the feet are on the bolster, you're going to go ahead and push into your feet and lift the hips up and see if you can just mildly squeeze the ball, just a little bit as the hips go up. Tracking, using this position to get some circulation in my spine. So arms overhead, and then lower the spine down. Okay, let's do about 3 more, so about 4 total. So scoop the tailbone just the right amount, okay? So I don't want you to make it like you're really trying to create a lot of cramping or hardening at the back of the pelvis. You're just lifting up the hips so you can feel that circulation to the upper back. Okay, and then lower the spine on down. Okay, now we're going to bring the knees in. We're going to take the ball out and we're going to actually push our bolster to the right side of our mat. Okay, now you want the hard ball and the soft ball. Okay, so we're going to cross the left leg to the bolster on the right, place the soft ball around the sacrum, and then take the hard ball and let the left hand hold it and roll it. Now there's no rush, this might take your time. Roll it under that left trap. This might be actually getting the ball under too fast because I already forgot our sandbag idea. So sandbag, my apologies, rewind. Sandbag goes to the left hip. Okay. All right. Outer left thigh or hip. And then I want to reset that ball so it's between my shoulder and my spine. And it's not on my neck or on my spine. Okay, it's in my trap. So what I find I like to do is to shrug the shoulder up and down. I can really get some nice little massage work in my trap. Some of us will move the arm out and down and breathe. Some will move the arm around. Yeah, so if there's a lot of like, just it's really ropey in there. Right, there's a lot of tension. You might find just the ball at the upper back is enough. So if you're like, I still don't know what she means by this hard ball placement, it's to my left upper back. I don't want to say side of the back because it's in the trapezoid area here. So it's on the left side. It's okay if you end up a little bit in the shoulder area, okay? That's fine because it's a shoulder exercise. But I don't want you to have it like in the upper rotator cuff or the lower. So it's okay if it bridges on it. It's just not on your neck, okay? But it's just below it. And it's very close. Yeah, I really like to add all these things together. This is kind of nice. It makes it like you're really in your little body laboratory workout here. Got my weight for my hip and my leg and my femur here. So I got weight bearing. And I got the ball to secure my pelvis anchoring. And then I got the hard ball at the top. I like to have a blanket under my head, not under my neck. Okay. So if you just want the ball to stay there and just let your arm open, that's fine. And if you don't want to use the ball, then don't use it. Okay. So take a few more breaths here, bending the right leg as much as the left, shrugging the shoulder or not. If If you're using a golf ball, it'll kind of suck into the trap probably. It'll be kind of lost in there. But it's a nice little acupressure point into the lungs, right, upper back. Okay, now when we come out on the side, we're first going to let our head nod to the right. Take the ball out from that left side. Careful, you don't want to pinch something. Okay, so just take it out. Okay, now take the sand off the left thigh, and then you might do a little sacrum shearing. So just put the ball to the sacrum, back of the pelvis, and just go side to side. Grab your bolster in the meantime. This is a little bit of a workout, isn't it, today? Bolster to the left side. And then as your left leg is bending, you're going to roll into that right leg crossing over to the bolster on the left. Okay? So if the ball is kind of in a spot you're not super excited about, you can always move things around. You don't want to feel like, oh gosh, this is stuck and I don't feel comfortable. So move around. I think sand first before the hard ball. Okay. I gotta live and learn, I guess. Okay. So bolster, I'm going to kind of hug it in. So it's really pretty close in, not super close, but close in. And then the ball in my right hand, and I'm going to roll it. Now your head is probably leaning left, not just because of the screen, but you're leaning left because of the right leg is going to the bolster on the left. So that's kind of helpful. So I lean and I just take the ball, I place it to the right of my spine and my upper back. And I think you can't get upper back enough on getting this one right. Generally, people roll it too far under in a class, and just that half an inch makes a difference. So it's going to be in tissue that's really brick-like for most of us because of our posture and rounding and an overstretched upper back and an understretched pec area. So just let the ball be in the upper right side of the back and move your arm. Just let that right arm move up and down. Again, you can shrug your shoulder. Just breathe. It only helps. The arm can also try to stretch out with the ball stuck in the upper back. Your head can rock side to side. You might be on a knot, right? If that ball is right in a knot and you get a little bit of a headache, you might need to move it out. Don't feel like you have to stay with anything that's just pushing out a lot of toxic, stuff into your body because it's so tight. Sometimes it's too much. Okay, a couple more breaths, and then we'll go to our legs up. Okay, now as we feel that right shoulder shrugging up and down, if you get rid of the ball now, you can let your head turn to the right or keep the ball under for a few more moments. Breathing deep. I think the ball in the upper back is interesting for just breath work. Feel the pressure into the lung tissue with that ball pushing. And you just use your body weight. Gravity is your therapist. That's kind of true, isn't it? Okay. So take the ball out. If it's tricky for your tricep to do that, you could just roll to the side. Don't worry about it. Just move your sand off. Do as little as you need to. Okay. Roll to the left side. Hunker down. So you're going to walk your hands in towards your hips. And then take your bolster and place it at the base of the wall. Okay. So I would say if you can use a wall, use it. If you would rather put your legs up on like an ottoman or a couch or a chair, or a bed, that's perfect too. But what's nice about the bolster at the wall is you're going to create that chest opening, the inversion, the arch. The inversion is because your pelvis is up. It's not because your legs are up, right? That has the energetic of inversion with the legs up. But the pelvis up, head goes below heart. Okay. So head is lower then. So I bring my hips up, my head slants down. And I kind of roll on the back of the sacrum. And then I'm going to get that blanket. Actually, do I have the ball? Okay. All right. So here's an idea. Now, you can place your sand on your feet first. That would be probably your best support right now. You can keep your blanket under your head, but I am going to show something for the occiput, but I do want you to be careful that if you're going to use the ball kind of at that cranial vault, that you want to have no blanket under your head because it'll cause more tilt, cause more roundness. Don't need that. So sand on the feet. Now, if you're like, I'm comfy, I'm going to put an eye pillow on and I'm good, you don't have to change a thing. Just be your wonderful inversion self that you are. However, okay, if you want to try the ball, I would say put the blanket on the belly, okay? So then you get a little bit of thermal. And then place your ball at the occiput. Now, if you have the tune-up balls in the tote, it's way better, right? You put the two balls in that tote, you tighten it up, and then there's two balls right on the suboccipitals. So where the heck does it go? If I bring my fingers on my neck and move all the way up to the top of the cervicals, right at the brain stem, okay? And then I just roll the ball under. I like to lift my head and do it, and then put it right at the occiput, creating that still point. Now, I prefer the two balls, but the one ball is good. Just no blanket under your head. Don't add any more roundness. So working towards that circulation into the brain, right? Lymphatic system, right? The lymphatics, the cerebrospinal. Okay, so I've got my ball there, or I've got a blanket. You're using one or the other. Arms are open, and you do create this bit of the Jalandhara Bandha, right? This chin squeeze into the thyroid and the parathyroids. Now, what if you got a golf ball? That would probably be a little too much. Okay. It's not going to be as big, right? That's a benefit, but I've never seen that taught with a golf ball. So maybe it's just too hard. Okay, so as you're breathing, let your arms span open. You can always use your soft ball, right? If you're like, I kind of like the circulation, but this hard ball is too much. Especially if you have one of the soft balls that are a little smaller. And layer in for the final moments here to center the brain, the belly breath. And if you're up on a hard ball, I want you to actually move it aside. Okay, let your head be on the hard floor. And just let your head nod from side to side. For all of us, let our head move side to side, whether we have a blanket already or not. And just feel the back of the skull and feel its movement when you roll your head to the side. See how it goes. Feel the facial muscles and the bones relax. Head goes to the second side. And feeling one more time, rolling side to side. Relax the face, the mouth. Now come back in center. If you happen to still have that ball there, remember this is a time to move it away. And feel how the bowling ball at the top, right, it has a little rocking motion. And then find that stillness and that deepening breath into the rib spaces. Inhale, filter through the nose. Belly lifts, ribs expand, and then relax. Bend the knees and slide the feet from the wall, shift them away. Caution, caution, those weights. Squeezing in towards the core, and then take the sand off. You can hug the back of the legs. If you got a blanket, it's kind of extra good, little massage into the digestive tract, into those organs, that deep squeeze. Okay, and then we're gonna just rock to the side. You didn't get out of bed on. Okay, so go to that direction. Then change it up. And then come around and take a seat. Let your knees point out. Let the hips center straight on down. Shoulders roll. And just feeling from the spine up to the brainstem, up into your head and the movement in the throat and the neck. And bring your chin up, bring your hands to join, palms to palms at our hearts. Breathing in wellness. And as we exhale, bowing in to the peace within your heart.